You know, it seems like everybody's crying false flag on everything. And false flags, it's like a cop-out. And it hurts people. You know, when 9/11 happens and we're suffering, and then people say, hey, you did this to yourself. It's like Holocaust denying. It would be like saying that the last time Israel sent cluster bombs into Lebanon and killed innocent children, that Israeli army was innocent, and it was the local Lebanese that blew up these innocent children just to make Israel look bad. That would be a false flag scenario. And people, no matter what the scenario is, it's like there's this segment of the population that doesn't want their friends or people who they love or people who they respect or people from their clan or their brood to be responsible for anything. So if something bad happens, you cry false flag. And you know, sometimes there are real false flag things out there happening, but how would we ever know if people are crying false flag every time a historical event happens? I mean, aren't there real historical events? I mean, some of us would have us believe that there are no real historical events, that everything that happens is a false flag. You could take little pieces from an event like 9/11, and you could come up with a lot of information just by taking a look at bin Laden. Bin Laden's existence. For me, bin Laden's existence is enough to prove that 9/11 was not an inside job. Almost completely prove. I leave a little bit of doubt, but Osama bin Laden has become kind of a cult hero, as a Robin Hood for some people, and I'm wondering why, because I've come up with 3 different scenarios about what Osama bin Laden's role could have been, and in every single one of them, he's a bad guy. Okay, so the first one would be Osama bin Laden went out the way America said he did and did this terrorist act. Without the help of the CIA, Mossad, whatever. He did it. He bragged about it. He didn't come off to me when I watched his videos as being a liar. A killer, yes, not a liar. And when I say killer, I don't mean any less a killer than when cluster bombs are sent into Lebanon, killing innocent children on behalf of Israel. The people who authorized that are just as much a killer as Osama bin Laden was. He, in effect, has created near genocide for Arabs in some regions. It was the 9/11 launching pad that has triggered all of these Middle East invasions. So really, if you're a Muslim, your life has not improved since Osama bin Laden's actions. I'm amazed at the Muslims that would consider him a hero, considering the quality of life lost at the hands of Osama bin Laden, if Osama bin Laden is the guilty party. Now, there's 2 other scenarios. One scenario is that Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with 9/11, and the CIA and Mossad, who planned 9/11, chose him as their scapegoat. Now, if I was going to vet a scapegoat, if I was going to have a scapegoat, I would kill him the day the event happened, just so his mouth didn't move and no one found out. You don't want to have somebody going around not claiming, claiming something different than what you're claiming. So the first thing is, if the CIA and the Mossad were going to have Osama bin Laden as a patsy and just blame him for it, they wouldn't have let him live for as many years as he lived. They would have probably picked somebody who wasn't so critical of Israel. Because if you want to get a patsy, you don't want him out there talking and making your institution look bad. And Osama bin Laden made Israel look bad. It would be a bad choice to pin it on him. Again, you want to pin it on somebody who's completely crazy, and then you want to make sure they die so they can't talk, like really quickly. And that goes against what Osama bin Laden did. And so if Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with 9/11, then he's a liar, because he claimed he did. And he also, not just a liar, but he was a liar that lied a lie that killed Muslims. Now, when I say killed, I mean killed in the same way that I mean Israel is responsible for killing people in 9/11 from my perspective, not because they actively did it. It's because part of the justification for the angry people who went and killed people on 9/11 was our relationship with Israel. So Israel isn't guilty for doing it. Israel has a chickens coming home to the roost kind of responsibility in the fact that the nature of our relationship with Israel and the nature of Israel's relationship with the Palestinian people is what is getting Americans killed here and abroad. In this false flag scenario, on top of everything else, Osama bin Laden's a liar and an opportunist, and by lying and taking credit for something the CIA and the Mossad did, he actually ends up causing Muslims to die in invasions in Iraq, and who knows what will happen with Iran. So I got two scenarios where Osama bin Laden's a bad guy and what his actions are just making Muslims suffer. The last one is that Osama bin Laden was a partner with the CIA and Mossad. Again, makes him a homicidal killer. It means that he was working on behalf of the CIA and the Mossad. And if he was doing that, why would he make those videos where he's trash talking the USA and Israel? Again, you don't want the Mossad wouldn't pick a partner, an evil villain to scapegoat, to lay everything on that was bad-mouthing Israel. It would be crazy. You wouldn't do it. Israel would be too smart to do that. If Osama bin Laden in any of these scenarios had said, hey, I had nothing to do with this, even if he did, he said, look at the Mossad, look at the US, they did this to themselves. Well, it would mean that he could no longer claim, we did this because of your relationship with Israel. We did this because of the injustice that you're doing all over the world. You can't say that if it's an inside job. I can't think of a scenario here where Osama bin Laden is a good guy, a hero worthy of emulating in any way. And it also looks very likely that Osama bin Laden and his crew did 9/11. I mean, I'm sure in America we have a lot of conspiracies that are happening, and maybe some conspiracies that are somehow loosely related to 9/11, but not to a causal effect of 9/11. Because, again, I don't think America would ever have chosen someone like Osama bin Laden to be a scapegoat for such an action. And again, if I was a murderer and I was planning this incredible undercover false flag murder of my own people, anybody who I was going to blame, who I didn't have control over, I'd really want to make sure they were dead right away. I'd want to make sure they were dead before I even told people who he was. I want to make sure Osama bin Laden was dead. So really, to me, it appears to be just what it appears to be. And if that's the case, then we don't have to worry about 9/11 being an inside job. So let me know what you think.